உலகெங்கும் தமிழரின் பிம்பம் உங்கள் டிவி.
Welcome to CrossRoads on TVI. I'm your host, Manjula Salvaraja. Today is a masala kind of show. We speak to a groundbreaking playwright from Chennai, the director of Canada's National Women's Theatre, a young Taekwondo star who is going to the Youth Olympic Games, and a political candidate who's running for a councillor position in Markham. Let's meet our first guest. Anupama Chandrasekhar is an award-winning Chennai-based journalist turned playwright. Her play titled Free Outgoing, which is showing in Toronto right now, has been described by critics as gripping and insightful. It follows the fallout of a 15-year-old Tamil girl's text messaging scandal. It premiered at the Royal Court Theatre in London to sold-out shows and rave reviews, and has had over 75 showings in the UK, including the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. So delightful to have you here.
My pleasure.
Kelly Thornton is the artistic director of Nightwood Theatre, Canada's National Women's Theatre. She has directed numerous plays for the company, including Free Outgoing, as well as, this is quite a CV, Canadian Stage, Theatre Passe Muraille, and Buddies in Bad Times Theatre. She has been recognized with awards honoring her work as a director and for her dedication to the training and mentorship of young women in the performing arts. So wonderful to have you here as well.
Great to be here.
You drove through cold weather to get here. That's what matters. How are you liking the snow, by the way?
Well, I'm not quite liking the snow. Coming from Chennai, I was just telling Kelly, I've come straight from the frying pan into the refrigerator, into one of the most, the coldest winters Canada's ever seen.
Yeah.
But I find the people incredibly warm, perhaps the warmest country that I've ever been to, you know. So I'm quite enjoying my first experience of both Canadian winter and Canada.
Well, I'll tell you, I know you're a playwright by your description of the frying pan. that is beautifully written, which I expect of all of your work. So, you know, this play is actually a very exciting story. So tell us about what it is about.
It's about when a young girl films herself having sex with her friend, and the film goes viral. The kind of societal ramifications it causes and the outrage it causes is what I wanted to explore with Free Outgoing, which is what I have explored in the play. It was my intention to understand why my society was reacting the way it was. Not so much the incident itself as much as the society's response to the incident.
Okay, and give us a feeling for how do you showcase that in the play without giving everything away? But how do you do that?
Should I say what my device is or not?
Oh yeah.
Okay. You don't ever see the primary character, which is the girl itself.
The 15-year-old girl.
The 15-year-old girl.
Okay.
So in a way, my intention was to see not so much the pebble in the water as much as the ripples that pebble has created. So you see, the protagonist is the mother of the girl, and the response of the family to the event, response of the society to the event. Kelly?
Yeah, I mean, it's really, for me, I say to Anushree Roy, who's playing Malini, who's the single mother, it's her Hamlet, because she goes on this radical journey.
Because of the ramifications of her daughter's
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, she's a hardworking widowed woman who, all of her dreams are in her children. Their award-winning Deepa is a really bright student destined for medical school, and she's working very hard to keep them in private school, and she faces this crisis like a bull. Like she fights for her. She tries to solve the issue, and it's a real tragedy when she first finds out that this videotape has happened, and that it was texted to a friend, and he texted it to a friend, and she she talks about, we have to round them up, we have to talk to everyone who's got it and get them to delete it. And the tragedy is it's gone, right? It's gone. And you know,
the nature of sort of viralness on the internet. Yeah.
And so the daughter and the boy in question are expelled, as is her brother, and so they really take a huge fall. And the play's also about water, because a media frenzy ensues outside of Melanie's apartment complex, and so no one can get, the water lorry can't get in. And so everyone in the complex, 60 families, are suffering because of it. And and so she's, you know, the family itself is causing huge problems within. It's a terrible tragedy, but it's also extremely funny.
So what drew you to the story? This is quite interesting.
You know, I mean, I run Nightwood Theatre, which has 35-year history of producing provocative new work by women, and I found out about this play when it premiered at the Royal Court, and I immediately I got a copy of it and I read it, and I just ate it up. I think, you know, it's, number one, it's brilliant writing. It's brilliant, brilliantly unfolds this crisis. For me, it's obviously it's a really interesting examination of the clash between what rampant technology has done to the society with very traditional values, and how the younger generation lives on the internet and in social media, and so it's a clash within that nation. But for me, it's also it's a very universal story. I think anybody. I'm raising a 6-year-old daughter right now, and doing the research for this play and looking at the similar stories like Amanda Todd in BC, like, you know, the naivete of young kids. Playing with fire, you know,
where in the heat of a moment they might take a photo.
Yeah, selfies. Like it's the culture to record yourself and post it and share yourself. But I think that there was a naivete in Jeevan and Deepa to do that. I think it was, they didn't really understand the ramifications. And that sadly is, I mean, I did a lot of research. That sadly is the case again and again for young people making mistakes, and then it finds their way onto the internet.
And we've had stories. I mean, this is not just in India. We've had stories here in Canada. You and I just spoke about the situation in America in
Steubenville.
Steubenville, and that was a very similar story. This girl was ostracized. Right?
Yeah, I mean, you know. It's interesting. This is a consensual exchange between these two kids. That, you know, but there's, you know, Rehtaeh Parsons in Halifax also committed suicide because, you know, intoxicated at a party and things went wrong and boys took advantage, and next thing you know, it's on social media, and you know, it ends in tragedy. There's numerous cases of young girls that are shamed and ostracized. So it's not just, you know, in this case it's in Chennai, and the media has gone crazy, and there's crowds outside. There's women, you know, sweeping the streets, sweeping the shame away, and
but it applies.
But that shame is everywhere, you know, and this is really a play about, you know. As you say, the ripples around. It's not about a moralistic question of, you know,
of what she did. So I'm curious to know, was there a story or what inspired this?
The play is set in 2007, and that was the year when the play was first produced. I began to write the play in 2005 as a response to two incidents that took place in India. One was the incident of the Delhi public school children who filmed themselves having sex, and that got viral. You must remember that in 2004, 2005, or was 2003, I think, that time was when technology was just being discovered by teenagers. And it was an era before iPhone, before Twitter. And this gadget was very new in immature hands. So what followed after the event was the kind of outrage that I've never seen before on Indian television, and the kind of hysteria that the media men, media persons had into the sexual and the curiosity into the sexual lives of these teenagers. It disturbed me really greatly, that adults could have so much prurient curiosity into children's lives. And after all, this act, at least to my mind, was done in naivete, in innocence. Perhaps the two were in love, I don't know. But I was disturbed by the response of the society.
So now that you're talking about the reaction.
Reaction.
Wow, and did it get to a national level as well?
It did, because I was sitting in Chennai, and this event took place in Delhi, and it was, that clip was being shown in all the channels, except it was blurred, but you do know what is happening, you know. And when you show it through 24/7 news channels, over and over and over again,
it affects the psyche.
It. Yeah. So you, on the one hand, you talk about morality of the event, you know, and how society is reacting so badly. I mean, these were the news anchors who were talking about it, and at the same time they were showing the same clip over and over again. So on the hypocrisy of it all was something I really wanted to explore. The other incident took place in Chennai, where a Tamil film actress wrote a column on AIDS awareness, and she said that women must practice safe sex, except she included in her ambit of discussion even unmarried women. And that, of course, caused a regional furor, and the kind of violent backlash was once again very disturbing. You know, the roads being swept clean, effigies being burned, and rocks being thrown at her house, and she had to publicly apologize. So my play is loosely inspired by both these events. I mean, it is fictionalized, but I was fascinated and at the same time disturbed by what my society was reacting to, in the way it was reacting. And that was the beginning of my exploration in my play.
Wow, that certainly makes me want to go see it more than I did before we started this interview. So, you know, I know that before we make sure we get to the end, I want to get this in, otherwise we're going to get calls asking for it. When is this showing? Where can we see this?
So opening night was this past Thursday night, and we run till February 16th at the Factory Theatre.
Okay. And the Factory Theatre, I looked up the address of it. It's 125 Bathurst, which is, I believe, Bathurst and Queen. I think.
Yeah, Bathurst and Adelaide, so just south of Queen.
Okay, and they can buy tickets at?
You can just go to Nightwood's website, so www.nightwoodtheatre.net.
So what has the reaction, I mean, the reaction in Canada been? Because you've had a couple of days that it's shown now. What's the reaction
I
been?
think people, you know, people are awestruck by it. It's a very intense ride for the audience. I talk to a lot of audience members that they say they're like, their backs are up and tense for you know, the level of stress that Malini goes through as the parent trying to deal with it. But they love it, you know. I think they, as I said, I think they, you know, a lot of people on Twitter are posting, you know, a culturally specific story, but a universal issue. So
I've been seeing some great feedback on Twitter about it.
Yeah, I think people are really, you know, for me it's so important. You know, I have, somebody came on one of the previews and said, I'm coming back and I'm going to bring my little sister. She's part of the Big Sister, Little Sister club, and she says my little sister she's 13 and she's, you know, she's just starting to post selfies, and theater, like nothing else, is a place where we can come together in the dark and watch something powerful on stage, and it can open a dialogue that is a harder dialogue to open with young people without
and you're
the
not
medium of
giving them
theater.
the answer either. It
No,
starts
I mean,
the dialogue, which
yeah,
is the great thing.
I think you know, I think great theater is it asks questions. It doesn't give you answers, and I think this play asks a lot of questions. It really, it's a remarkable piece of writing.
So which brings me to, I'm sure you've been asked this before, my understanding is that it has not been shown in India yet. It's shown in a lot of other places in Europe and obviously here now. So what do you think, are there plans to show it in India?
Well, I have a director and we are trying to look for producers. We are definitely looking to do the play in India. The problem is, of course, finding producers who are willing to take the risk, because this is a social play. It's not an entertainment play. And the general trend is, because there is very little money in theatre, producers tend to be very conservative in the selection of plays. And the trend is towards entertainment, theatre as entertainment rather than theatre as education, or theatre as a social medium. So hopefully we will find the right producer, and hopefully the play will be done.
So, I mean, we talked about this in the lobby too. Do you think that the, how do I say this, just sort of not just the complexity, but some of the controversy around such a topic affects financing and affects finding the right producer?
Perhaps, because there's one producer who backed out in the last moment, saying the subject matter was very uncomfortable to him. And I think this discomfort is essential, it's needed, and that is the duty and the role of theatre, to make people uncomfortable, to make them uncomfortable enough to think, to introspect, to talk, to discuss. The whole point is being uncomfortable, and I think that producer missed the point there. But I'm sure there must be a producer. I mean, we are a country of over 1 billion people. Surely there's one producer who's smart, who's intelligent, and who's sensitive enough to understand that perhaps an issue of this of this scale needs to be discussed, and it has to be discussed now. And we need to have regulations in place. So let's start the debate rolling. Let's put up this play, hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Well, I hope so. I hope so. I think this is a very interesting topic. So let me ask you this, actually, because I heard this in your bio about the fact that you mentor women. What is it like being, a female in the performing arts here in Canada? I'm going to come back to you with that question as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to hear the comparison, be it as a playwright or a director.
It's interesting, because in 2002, I launched a study called Equity in Canadian Theatre, the Women's Initiative, which was about gender equity. And in 1982, so 20 years after the original study, there was a study done in 1982 about women's status in the performing arts. And so I thought, 20 years later, I'm interested to see where we are. There was like sometimes only 3 to 5% increase of playwrights, female playwrights being produced, female directors getting work, female artistic directors running theaters. It's sadly, we're still, we're certainly not balanced, although interestingly enough, the primary ticket buyer for theater is women.
I was going to say, yeah, because when I go
Yeah.
to things, it's the
Yeah.
like
I mean,
when I
even
come
if
to see
they-
this play, it's mostly women that I'm coming with.
Absolutely, or if they buy the ticket for their husband and themselves, but they are usually the ones finding out what the shows are and going. So it's, the struggle is still there to have women's voice heard, and I think, Anupama and I were talking about that. That's the case all over the world, really. It's not.
So tell me what it's like then. I know that we have that. What it's like being a female playwright in.
It shouldn't be any different from being a male playwright, I guess. But being a female playwright in a country where there are not enough female directors, that is a huge problem. Because how else will the voice of 50% of the population be heard? Which is why a group and an organization like Knightwood is so important, because they're doing plays by women. Usually it's in a country like India, it's primarily an old boys network.
So you don't have a similar organization of that kind in
and not
India?
that I'm aware of. I'm sure there are a few
I think,
women's groups.
aren't you the
actually.
founding artistic director?
It's time to start one.
Yes, perhaps, because I have been thinking about it, how to replicate something like Knightwood in India, because it's such an important organization and filling a huge gap in terms of who your audience is and putting a place by women is so important. And I was just telling Kelly on our way here, you see women at the forefront of any revolution. How else are you going to capture those voices if not through theatre? And who else will capture their voices if not women theatre persons, you know? So an organization like Knightwood is very important, and hopefully an organization like Knightwood would be born in India soon.
So that there, I mean, there are several, you know, female directors that could use that, and playwrights as well that can use it.
And seeding the next generation, you know, I think that's, once you start it, then you empower the next generation of young female artists to be heard, to write stories, to tell their stories.
We need to nurture the next generation of female artists, as she said, and to nurture, we need to start building up a system of nurturing. And we have to make a start at some point, and it better be now. Thank you.
Well said. So, you know, I need to ask you about Knightwood. Can you give us a sense of what Knightwood is about? Because I think Knightwood would be, to some of people in our audience, it would be new.
Yeah, Knightwood has been around since 1979, so we're 35 years old. We are Canada's premier women's theatre company. We do both Canadian work, so we develop new plays, as well as doing plays from the international repertoire. And we've launched many, many careers. Diversity is a huge part of our mandate. We launched the career, you know, Janet Sears, African-Canadian playwright, started at Knightwood. Anne-Marie MacDonald, a celebrated Canadian author, wrote her first plays at Knightwood. So we really, I mean, you know, our mandate is to, our vision statement is to propel women to the top of their craft in Canadian theatre. And we do a lot of work mentoring the next generation, a lot of internships and such.
What's the sense that you have for the challenges that a female playwright or director would face? And let's bring it down to the theatre scene, as opposed to a male playwright.
Well, I mean, it's interesting you talk about the boys' club. I mean, the boys' club exists everywhere, and so young men, I think, just join. You know, they're naturally mentored by the boys' club and brought into the circle, and so I think it's about giving young women the place, so that they can feel that they have. I mean, I often say, you know, like, I want every female graduate from any of the theatre schools, when they come out of school, to think of Knightwood first, because it is, I mean, you know, they also say there's more female students than male students in the theatre schools, and yet the canon is a male-dominated canon. So, for instance, they're going to do a Shakespeare play. Well, there's, you know, a couple of good roles, and then the rest are male.
True. Yeah.
So unless you gender blind cast the entire play, the kids, the girls, and I've talked to a lot of graduating students saying, you know, that their male counterparts, their male students, know how to speak Shakespearean text better than they do, because they've had bigger roles. So it just perpetuates itself. Yeah. So, you know, for me to be able to tell female stories by female playwrights, it's an obvious thing that there's going to be the female protagonists and better roles for women and better roles for older women too. I mean, it's you know, they talk, women aging start to lose roles because there's just not as many, so they lose, you know, their employment.
Well, I'll tell you, both of you are making such a difference, and I can't wait to see the play. Thank you so much for joining us today, and give us the dates again. It's January
28th, which we've already opened, right up until February 16th.
Great, and they can look up the Knightwood Theatre for tickets.
Yeah, Knightwood Theatre.
Thank you again, and we hope to have you back again when you come back into town for your next, because I think there will be a next one in Toronto. Stay with us. We have more on the show, as you heard before. You're watching Crossroads on TVI with Manjula Salvaraja. Welcome back to Crossroads on TVI with Manjula Salvaraja. Such a pleasure to introduce our next guest. It's kind of nice that she decided to join us here today. Andrea Jerome is a grade 10 student at Father Bressani Catholic High School. Yes, she is an honor student and a tutor at Kumon, but she has a few other things under her belt. A martial arts belt, that is. She's a Taekwondo star. In December, she became the only athlete to win gold in the Canadian Olympic trials and World Championship trials, which is extremely rare for the sport. Even better is the news that she will be going to China this March to participate in the qualification tournament for the Youth Olympic Games. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So first of all, I mean, before we get into the trials and the fact that you're going to China, how did you get into Taekwondo?
Well, my younger brother Jaden was very successful in all the sports that he had done, and he would constantly bring home trophies. And
you were jealous?
Yes. And I felt really left out. So then my mom joined me into Taekwondo, and then I went to my first tournament and I got a medal, and then I realized I wanted to stick with the sport.
Now, how much practice do you put into Taekwondo itself?
I train every day, not only within Taekwondo, but on my own as well. On weekdays, I train about 2.5 hours, and on weekends, I train about 4 hours. And it's not only physical training, it's mental as well.
So what is the physical training like?
It's a lot of work, building stamina, plyometrics, cardio, and it's not only with your physical, you have to maintain your body as well. So like a healthy diet is mandatory.
Of course, so no junk food, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
So what's the mental training like for Taekwondo?
Well, there's a lot of competitors and highly ranked names, and you have to be able to overcome them. And there's always going to be people who are better than you, but if you're stronger as a fighter, you'll always do better.
So is that a focus? Is that, like, how do you achieve that kind of sort of mental strength?
I think you have to have good support from the people around you mainly, and as long as you're confident in what you do, you should have a good mental strength.
So who are your mentors and supporters?
Well, my coach, Sungmin Sun, he's a huge part of my success. He's always been there for me and supported me throughout everything. And more than a coach, I would consider him family. And then I have my Grandmaster son, and the moment I walked through that door, he had never doubted me. He always supported me, and he was always there for me. And then my teammates are also great, because they are the ones who made me who I am and made me the fighter I am today. And they're always there to support me, and whenever I'm down, they can always cheer me up.
And I think that's needed, that community of support. Right?
Yes.
So what was it like to be at the trials and realize that, did you have a feeling that you were going to do that well?
Honestly, I was so nervous I couldn't even think straight.
Okay.
Yeah, but then after I won, it was so overwhelming and I couldn't stop smiling. It was really great. And then my friends and family were there and they would support me. And then I think the best feeling overall, though, was when they called my name to stand on top of the podium. My heart was like racing, but...
So when did you know exactly that you had what you would consider like a gold medal performance? Like, when would you have known that?
There was 5 seconds on the clock, and I had a point gap of 3. And I was looking at the score, and I was watching it count down to 3, 2, 1, and then I ran and jumped on my coach.
Because you knew then.
Yeah.
And what is involved in this competition? Like, how many people pull together? Because the trials themselves happen in Montreal, right? So walk us through what happens.
So basically, not anyone can compete into trials. You have to first gain enough points. So you have to compete at provincials, nationals, and many opens, like US Open, Dutch Open. And after you regain enough points, then you can go compete in the trials. And then in the trials, you fight the best of the best. And no matter if you win by 1 or whatever, as long as you win, you're going to...
You advance, is that what that means?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And was there anyone else from your club that made it into the medal standings as well?
Yes, my friend Rachel Kuma,
Okay.
she made Youth Olympics with me, and then my friend Julian Bertone made World Champions with me.
So how does, excelling, obviously you don't just participate in the sport, you excel at it, but how does, excelling or actually even participating in the sport, how does it affect other parts of your life, the practice of Taekwondo?
It becomes really overwhelming because Taekwondo has helped me in so many things. It taught me a lot about respect and honor, and at some points I feel really overwhelmed with all that I do, but then I realize at the end of the day, as long as I succeed, I know I'll do well, so it's worth it.
And is it that, does it give you other aspects like mental focus or things of that nature?
Yes, it gave me, it taught me how to be more focused and like It's great, yeah.
Now, in other, I know that you're preparing to go to China, right? You're going to China in March.
Yeah.
And those are the qualification trials for the Youth Olympics, am I right?
Yeah.
Yes. Are there ways that you're working to improve? Like, what are some of the ways that you think you could improve your current practice?
Well, building stamina, because in China it's going to be a lot hotter than it is in here. So I have to be able, and I'm going to be fighting the best of the best. So I have to train a lot harder and become a stronger fighter. And I also have to work on my mental strength too. And
so you've got a few tasks.
Yeah.
So explain Taekwondo. There might be people in our audience, I don't know a ton about it as well. I'd love to hear, what is Taekwondo?
Taekwondo is a Korean-based sport. It's a national sport in Korea actually. And it's all about flexibility and kicking. And so they're like metal chest guards kind of, with magnets in them. And then you wear magnetic socks. So then if a body shot connects, the magnet makes a power. So you have to get a certain power in order to score. And then, so if you get a body shot, it's 1 point, and then headshot is 3 points. And if you knock the person out, then you automatically win.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
And is Taekwondo, we were talking about if it's more defense, more offense, because I know martial arts is split up that way too, right?
Yes. Taekwondo is more attack than defense.
It is more attack than defense.
Yes.
So talk to us about China. What is going to happen in China? When does it happen? Tell us all about it.
It's right after March break, and so I have Worlds the week before. At the beginning of the week, I'll be competing at the World Championships.
Okay. And are those qualifications as well, or
No.
the actual?
Yeah,
Oh, so this is the Youth World Championships. Is that right?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, and then at the end of the week, I'll be competing for the youth trials for the Olympics.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm pretty excited.
How do you feel about China? Are you nervous?
I'm really overwhelmed, yes.
What parts are you nervous about? I mean, you've done so well in the trials in Montreal so far.
Yes.
Why are you nervous?
Because the people I'm facing are just like me. They've worked their whole life towards it, and they want it as badly as I do. And I've just realized that it all comes down to how bad you want it and how hard you work for it.
So you know that the work ethic is the difference.
Yes.
Right? Now, what is going to be different about China? You said the temperatures. Like, how different will it be?
I think it's going to be warmer, and I'm pretty sure Taipei is on a mountain as well, so the air is going to be a lot thicker and harder to breathe.
I see. Yeah, because of the different pressures.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. And how does your family feel about this? I mean, this is a lot of time that you're spending on this.
Yes.
How does your family feel about all of this?
My family is great. They've supported me so much, and I'm really grateful for that, because it's just a great feeling knowing that there's people there to support you no matter what. And my grandparents have always been there for me, and they've driven me. And then my uncles, and especially my uncle in Italy, they've always supported me no matter what.
So there's a lot of people worldwide excited.
Yeah.
Who's coming to China with you?
My mom and my dad.
Okay, of course.
Yes.
Yes. And I'm guessing your coach as well.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, it's lovely having you here. Our best wishes to you. I hope that you know, and I think at some point we'll get to show some photos of your success there, and you can always come back
Thank
to
you.
tell us how you did.
Thank you.
Any advice for anyone that you think wants to excel at martial arts? Because there's a lot of people doing martial arts. Any words of wisdom about competition that you'd like to share?
All I would say is don't give up, stay humble, and work hard. That's it.
That it might be I think we just got our best quote of 2014 right there. Thank you so much. It's
No
a pleasure
problem.
having you
Thank
here.
you.
We will continue to bring you people of this stature throughout 2014. Hopefully her ambition and her resolve will motivate the rest of us for the year. You've been watching Crossroads on TVI with Manjula Salvaraja. Stay with us. Welcome back to Crossroads on TVI. I'd like to introduce our next guest. Raj Subramaniam is running for the position of Ward 5 councillor in Markham. A husband and a father of 3, he has lived in Markham for 10 years, 8 years in the particular ward that you're running in Ward 5. He has worked in IT across multiple industries for over 17 years. As a former board member of the National Council of Canadian Tamils, he has coordinated their blood drives for Canadian Blood Services, food drives, and fundraising for victims of natural disasters. Definitely a dedicated volunteer. I've seen his face at a lot of places. A dedicated volunteer across many organizations. He has also been advocating for human rights initiatives in Sri Lanka. He's a professional engineer and holds an engineering degree from Carleton University. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So you've made this big step.
Yes.
And I'll start you off with, we're curious to know, I'm sure our audience is, why are you running?
Well, I've been a community activist mainly with the Tamil community. I'm at the point that I need to embrace the wider spectrum of public service. So I started thinking about politics, especially at the municipal level, the grassroots level, that I need to get engaged. Civic engagement will get me going with the other community, help out, bring out my, all the services that I've been doing to particular community now to everybody, and start building bridges and all that stuff. So all the fun stuff.
So you wanted to extend some of the learnings that you've had and the work that you've done.
Yeah.
Well, that's wonderful. Definitely Markham is a hot area.
Exactly.
I think we've spoken about this before in Ontario and across Canada as well. What do you think are some of the problems that the residents of Markham face?
I live there with my 3 children. I think we, the young family, is the one that immediate user of the municipal council. We use a lot of services that provided by the municipality, such as community centers and playgrounds, school boards, funded transit, transportation. All that stuff are supported by municipal government. So I thought, okay, how I can get engaged and make it a much better place for the children, and not just me, but others who are living on the ward, same benefit, right? So I always think about it, right? I drop them off at the Suckhurst and think about, okay, how can I make it more better, right? Drop them at ice skating, and then always wait for them and then think, okay, what can I do to improve this so everybody can make better out of the taxpayers' money and stuff like that. Now,
there are definitely a lot of positive things that are going on in Markham.
Right.
There's also very contentious issues.
Right.
The whole hoo-ha about the arena.
Right.
This has been in the news for the last while.
Right.
I'm curious to know what your thoughts are. What your position is on the arena.
Okay, I want to start it off as one of my platform is strong transparency and accountability within the council. I want to make sure every decision that we take, it's consulted with the constituents and get their say on it. When I go to ask for vote, I don't have this as part of my responsibility of council, right? So I consider this as a non-essential expenditures, something coming up in the middle of my job, and then I shouldn't be voting on it in favor of it, because certainly it has up and down. We need to get the people to vote on it. That's my strong say on it. So right now, looking at this, I don't think this is going to fly, and
really?
I strongly reject that. We should have one, because it's going to come back and get the residents to pay more through the property taxes.
Now, I know that a lot of there are some people that have said, some people on council that have said that it may bring jobs to the area, it may bring sort of money to the area. What are your thoughts on that?
These are the sales pitch, right? They're trying to sell the plan to everybody, but for me, I don't see a sustainable financial framework that can hold this. If Toronto is failing, if Skydome is not producing enough revenue, what is certain that the new project coming into our area, right, and immediate go-to is going to be the taxpayers. Each household is going to start jumping and, we're losing money here, let's go increase the property tax, right? So that's a go-to place for every mistake that we make within the municipal, right? So I want to prevent that. Those things, I want the people to come out and understand that awareness, right? And then they vote on it.
So you want them to
take part in
the decision making.
Exactly.
And
yeah.
my guess is I would have remembered it otherwise. There was no referendum or this wasn't taken to the constituents.
They've been having some consulting, getting people input and all that stuff, but I don't think they are contributing in terms of decision making.
Do you think Markham residents understand the impact of something of this nature?
Yeah, they truly understand that. And I speak to all my people, my neighbors, when I go to drop my kids off and start, and they all with me that this is something surprise, this is something new. Nobody knows, right? And that next 4 years anything can happen, right? So they're scared to take the risk.
Of course. So, just on a lighter note, I'd
Right.
be curious. You've been living in Markham for a
Right.
long time. I'm sure there are a lot of things that you love about Markham. What are some of those things? Like, what is it that makes, why is it that you still love there and now you've decided to take it a step further and actually get more engaged civically?
I think the Markham has most diverse communities around the world. Everybody, you can learn about another part of the world by talking to your neighbor. That's the beauty of Markham, and also very peaceful environment. There's no such a high traffic flow and stuff like that within the community that we live, and the green belt is there. Schools are there with children are getting along. Education system is really good. So I think this is going to be my home forever, and I thought, okay, let's give my try and make a little contribution by helping it shape bigger than what it is now.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So, this is your new home, and I've heard you speak about it before, that it's a place that you love. Where you've come from originally
Yeah.
was also a place that you loved. Talk to me about that journey.
Oh, that's a big, a big journey. I was born in Venni, along with my 4 more siblings, and we've been running from both Indian and Sri Lankan government were virtually attacking us, so we've been running within on like IDPs, right, internally displaced people, and then we've been running, and we ended up in Jaffna. My father came as a refugee in Canada, and he sponsored us on a special minister's permit. They understood so we came in with the paper that when we land into the airport, they didn't even understand what the paper stands for, because that was a specially introduced paper for us. It's called minister permit or something like that. When I went to submit my nomination, I think it was very historical moment for me, because I came in as a refugee and made all my life better here, trying to use each and every opportunity that Canada gave me. And then now I'm taking part in the civic engagement. Whether I win or not, that's not the part. But the proud moment is to go into the political system, and being part of it is giving me a very, very good feeling about it.
That's an amazing story, and remarkable. I think Canada is made of fantastic stories of this kind. So, I'm sure that our audience would, above all of the other things that you've stated, why do you think that you'd be ideal for this role?
I have obtained my high school and university education here. I live with the communities of different type, different cultures. Worked about 17 years in the different industry, banking industry, government, public sector, and all that stuff. All the experience that I have, I thought will help me to serve the public office. Why I'm thinking is the children that I have, they're going to grow here in my ward, right? So I can learn from them too what they exactly needed, what I can do for them that will help other family and my neighborhood. So I'm going to think in a realistic way what I can do for my own family that's going to help everybody around me. So that's how I think I'm going to move on.
So talk to me a little bit about your platform. You have
Sure.
you've actually, I had a chance to look at your website. I did some searching, and I noticed that you actually have a defined platform.
Yes. Okay, so the first one is I want to put a property tax cap, which means I don't want for 4 years, if I am elected, I will not support any increase on the property tax. I do understand there's inflation, there's going to be, you need a sustainable financial support to continue to provide the good services. But what you can do is, Markham is growing as well. Households are increasing, new businesses coming in, other sources of income is there. We can also go back and demand more money from provincial and the federal government, right? And most important is cut the waste, right? Lean program, introduce a lean program, making sure, not a single dollar being wasted. The taxpayers' money is important in my life in the council. So
amazing.
Yeah.
So to walk us through what's going to happen next. What's
so
the next part of this process?
They have I have a team that looking to execute the strategy of all the campaign work. It's going to be a little different. We will be aiming at winning the hearts and minds of people by knocking doors and getting to know them, understanding what they really want, right? I have not just the tax platform, but I do have other ones such as I want to help the farmers to bring their products to a community center and sell them. So I want to have, when I come to the office, I want to print a calendar for each year. From every month and summer, it will be published. Okay, it's going to be on this month, the farmers will be selling their stuff there. That type of help for farmers, right? I also have a plan for green belt, making sure that green belt is preserved and we don't damage it, right? In terms of, heritage sites, they are the history of Canada, and I want to preserve them because I don't want anybody to come in with a plan and destroy it, because it's inspiring for all of us. My children learn from the Canadian history by looking at it, not just mine, but everybody, right? Mm-hmm. Another one is I'm looking into do is at the grassroots level, we need to create a type of mosaic integration program where I'm hoping to introduce programs during a March break and a summertime where, for example, Chinese kids will be learning an introduction to Tamil heritage. So they will come on one day they will learn about food, culture, political system, their history, everything, and crash course quick. And then Tamil kids go to the Creek course workshop, learn about them, right? Because why I want to do this is we want the people to understand each and everybody's culture at the grassroots level. That's where we
and
can
start
strong.
them young, perhaps.
Yes, with the school on holidays, right? They come in and they learn and they taste the food, and it's a culture that sometimes you have a neighbor, but you are not talking to them. If by talking to them, you learn a lot, building the bond. Once you build the bond, you will be strong together.
And it
build
creates
the
a community
exactly.
too, right? It goes from being a residential area to a community.
Exactly, and as municipal level, this is going to be very useful because this is where you interact with people. Right at the upper layer, people talk about diversity program and all that stuff. It's not going to fly just by talking about it, right? You have to do something about it by people. I don't know about if you know about Singapore. More like that, I want to create in Markham, where I want to see each community go into somebody else's culture, mingle with them, and kind of thing,
and
right?
Work together.
And we don't want to segregate the community, but we want to integrate them together. So one of the passion that I have if I'm elected. want to do it.
Well, it's working at the grassroots level has always been your stamp.
Yes.
So everything that you've said is very similar to that. Well, congratulations on making the first step. I know your name's been bandied about a lot, and it was nice to see you put your name forward.
Right.
That's wonderful, and good luck
Thank
with
you.
the campaign. Well, that was definitely a pleasure to meet a political candidate, and I think we'll have more people that'll be taking this courageous step as well over the next while. It has been a pleasure having this show with you. Stay tuned next week when we bring more exciting candidates and topics to you. My name is Manjula Salvaraja, and you've been watching Crossroads on TVI.
தமிழரின் பிம்பம் உங்கள் டிவி.